Yesterday, the Vikings waived wide receiver Blake Prohl, and without an addition to the roster to follow, there was the possibility that perhaps Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah was in the lab about to make a game-changing move, and a move that they made today, filling in that vacant roster spot, signing none other than Benton Whitley, outside linebacker from the LA Rams practice squad. And I gotta tell you, when I saw the Vikings Twitter account tweet out, "Hey, we the Vikings have signed," and I ignored the rest of the words, saw the Rams helmet, and I went, no wait, they really signed Odell Beckham Jr.? Then quickly realized it wasn't him and said, oh, okay. But I will not let that destroy my hopes and dreams that it can still possibly happen. Should the Vikings sign Odell Beckham Jr.? Yes, they should, and here's why. The need. Going into this season, I swore up and down that the Vikings had arguably the best collection of playmakers in the league within the passing game. 4 guys. So the idea that should they sign the Super Bowl winning wideout that's recovering from a torn ACL? No. In my eyes, we were good. Now that we have a 6-game sample size, Justin Jefferson, he's Superman, nothing to talk about. Adam Thielen, perhaps not as dominant as a wide receiver 2 from end to end, but still valuable as a red zone threat. Then there's the other 2 guys who just haven't played up to par. Irv Smith Jr., rocky start to the season. The last couple of games he's been solid, but still hasn't done enough to gain the coaching staff's trust to start a game. That's a sharp fall from the thought that he'd be a difference maker. And KJ Osborne, exceptional 2021 season, thought that he could pick up where he left off or perhaps take a leap in his game. Now struggles to get separation, very apparent in the Dolphins game. Yards per catch, down. Yards per game, down. 7 touchdowns last year, on pace for 3 this season. To sum it up, the Vikings have a superstar and a reliable player who at this point in his career is more of a WR3, and that's it. The Vikings absolutely need a receiver, not just for the rest of this season. Even if it's just a Band-Aid, you have to prioritize it as well in next year's draft. So now we talk about the player, OBJ. In a couple of weeks, he'll be 30 years old. If all is going well in his recovery, Adam Schefter speculates that he won't be ready until at least Thanksgiving. I say if you're the Vikings, you have to take that risk. In Cleveland, it was rough, got released by the Browns, signed with the LA Rams after clearing waivers, and from that point on, he recaptured that magic. 5 touchdowns and 7 starts. Dear God. Now, much like in LA with Cooper Kupp, he's not commanding heavy targets, Odell Beckham Jr. with Justin Jefferson on the field, but you bet your ass he's going to make the most of it. Still very much a deep threat. Speed is on point. He'd be a great wide receiver, too, for this team when he's ready. And Adam Thielen as the wide receiver 3 in the slot, perfect. And of course, Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, he's going to have to do some Houdini shit with the cap. According to overthecap.com, right now, the Vikings have just over $350K available. OBJ is exactly what this team needs the rest of the way. Coming into this season, playmakers within the passing game, we expected 4 juggernauts. Right now, we have just 1.5. That's not going to cut it. And the Vikings at 5-1, they're an attractive destination. And with his Rams OC, now the head coach in Minnesota, you have got to sign him, whatever it takes. Cody Hurd, you think there's any truth to the OBJ talk going around? Well, I don't know if there's any actual conversations happening between the 2 parties, but I like to think that he's at least on their radar. And Kwesi, I just can't figure him out. I'm still annoyed at how he handled the draft. If I had to guess, I don't think the signing is going to happen, but I sure as hell hope it does. NWA 744. You know, I've always heard from Packers fans that Aaron Rodgers was so elite that he could elevate his receivers and make anyone he threw to look elite as well, but it appears that was a giant lie. Lazard is in his 5th year with Rodgers and still looks like a wide receiver 3 at best. MVS never looked elite in 4 years, and so far these rookies aren't helping his case either. I'm starting to think that Rodgers was a product of elite receivers and not the other way around. I'm not going to do that. And objectively speaking, coming from a Vikings fan, I don't know if this was the first game that Rodgers played, or perhaps it was the first game that I paid attention to him. And this was after years and years of the Brett Favre fiasco every offseason. Well, maybe I'll come back. Maybe I'll retire. I don't know. I got to think about it. And the media would just go batshit over it. What decision is he going to make this time? It's like, dude, stop being such a drama queen. Make a decision already. But I digress. The first game that I paid attention to Aaron Rodgers, he was slinging that football. His throws were magical. He's a 4-time MVP, a Super Bowl champion. He's one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. I just think just like other greats at the end of their career, you see something similar to what you're seeing with Aaron Rodgers right now. I think his game just fell off, and pretty soon he's going to be done. I think he's over it. Cosmo 85. You forget about Rule being canned already? Yup, sure as hell did. Yesterday's video I talked about between Dan Campbell and Nathaniel Hackett, who's going to be the first head coach to be fired mid-season. I completely forgot about Matt Rule and the dumpster fire he was in Carolina, but switching up the point here, the second head coach to be fired between Campbell and Nathaniel Hackett, I gotta say it's Hackett. Even though Dan Campbell is in his second season compared to Hackett's first, Dan Campbell walked into a situation, a franchise in Detroit that had low expectations, so you gotta imagine that he has a longer leash to work with, whereas Nathaniel Hackett and the Broncos trading for Russell Wilson, all the shit they gave up for him, Broncos country, let's ride. They're an eyesore on national TV. At some point, any more primetime games, they gotta get flexed out. I wouldn't be surprised if they lose one more game, he's gonna be the first to go.